Ros Barber's poem Material is, I think, thematically linked to the idea of family, legacy. The way, I mean, I'm starting to notice in a lot of these poems the idea that objects themselves have a history or a way of speaking. It's also a poem about guilt, nostalgia, the past, sweetness of the past. And then also, because it's a smart poem, it rejects this idea and it underplays this to say this is all just an illusion, and actually we need to pay attention to the world around us as well. My mother was the hanky queen. Hanky is, handkerchief, and this is the material of the title. Physical, the actual materials used to make the handkerchief, but also the idea that the material could be that which makes up something. So this handkerchief itself represents something bigger. When hanky meant a thing of cloth, not paper tissues bought in packs. So here we get the contrast right away between something that lasts and something that's disposable. Okay? From late night garages and shops. So this is where you buy the crappy paper ones, but the old cloth ones are images, if you've seen movies, you wave them out of trains, you take away the tears from your eyes, and they're up the sleeve of her mother and elderly women. And what you see are these trains weeping. These are the old ideas of what a cloth hanky was about. It had a permanence, it had a romance, it had a kind of narrative, where these bunched up, thrown up pieces of late night garages, they don't mean anything. Tucked in the wrist of every cardie, a mom's embarrassment of lace embroidered with a V for Viv. Her mom embroiders, that's permanence. That's identity. And the speaker is embarrassed. Embarrassment of lace. What a great phrase, but I don't. It could be that for modest women, maybe, does this suggest an excess for people who are usually modest? That's why it's embarrassed. Lace is an expensive thing to make. Spittled and scrubbed against my face. That rhyme. Let me just see if it's here. Lace face is a nice rhyme. It connects the actual material to the face. I love spittled and scrubbed. This, again, another image of what a hanky can do to clean and prepare your children to be in the world. And sometimes more than one fell out, as if she had a farm up there where dried up hankies fell in love and mated, raising little squares. So there's a metaphysical kind of suggestion here that the hankies have life, love, children themselves. There's so many of them. But again, there's a kind of vitality and being to this object that isn't in these throwaways, as you'll come to see. She bought her own. I never did. Hankies were presents from distant aunts in box sets with transparent covers and script initial spelling, Ponce. The naffest Christmas gift you'd get. My mother's too, more than often than not, got male ones, serious and gray and larger, like they had more snot. You get this symbolic representation of the hanky as gift, then you get the idea that they're feminine and useless gifts. But then you also get the masculine ones, and this contrast to what it's actually used for, the bare physicality of snot, of mucus, of dried mucus, which is really what it's about. So what she's doing here is contrasting all the symbolic meanings of these objects. It was hankies that closed department stores with headscarves, girdles, knitting wool, and trouser presses, homely props you'd never find today in malls. Hankies, which demanded irons and boiling to be purified, shuttered the doors of family stores when those who used to buy them died. Shut the doors of family stores. That's good. I like that rhyme. But generally, what I'm noticing here is we get economics now are at play. Hankies are to be cleaned, cared for. They kept a cottage industry of people alive. You know, they're the opposite of malls. They demanded, they needed, but they're personified. They need to be taken care of, and purified is a real word that you'd want to jump on. And with the death of a generation, their tastes die as well. And somehow, with the hankies lost, Greengrocer George, with its dodgy foot delivering veg from the comma ban, is history. And the friendly butcher who'd slip an extra sausage in, the fishmonger whose marble slab of haddock smoked the color of yolks, and parcelled rows of local crab. Here are other industries that go. Greengrocers, butchers, fishmonger. So the generation that dies takes with it other industries pass too. So what's dying isn't just an object. This object symbolizes a time, an economy, a culture. And it's getting destroyed, and it's gone. And you can see a lament in the speaker. The parcelled rows of local crab lay opposite the dancing school where Miss White... Now, that enjambment... Here's a good example of actually a poetic device helping. This enjambment emphasizes the loss. It's an accumulation of details that flows from one stanza to the next. So the fishmonger opposite the dancing school, where Miss White with painted talents taught us, when you're smiling from a stumbling out of tune piano, a great auditory image or just soundscape. Step together, point. The annual talent show, and every mother fencing tears would whip a hanky from their sleeves and smudge a little rouge from their dears. We get a kind of nostalgic exploration of memory that links back to hankies and their purpose. So it's now like the loss of a community. So losing the fishmonger, which is opposite the dance school, and not a very good dance school, but very evocative and filled with memory, and the mother's fencing, that's great verb, fencing tears, they're crying, and in a way, isn't that what the speaker's doing? The speaker is kind of fencing her tears. She's filled with a pride and a joy of a lost time, which is maybe something that happens when you see your kids dance. Nostalgia only makes me old, she admits it, because that's really what's happened in this last stanza. She's just gone into this emotion of sad, sweet remembrance of the past. The innocence I want my brood to cling on to like 10 bob notes. 10 bob notes are gone too. All those old ways the English have of counting their money is lost as well. And it's TV that's killed it. So her own kids are losing innocence and a connection with the past. And it was me that turned it on. And there's the guilt. The guilt, it's my fault, says the speaker. I turn the TV on because I want to write a poem and eat bought biscuits I would bake if I'd commit to being home. So she uses TV and bought biscuits as opposed to made so she can write and work. And here we start to see, you know, the kind of feminist narrative too of what it means to try and be a woman in this world, and you're losing that past, and you want to be a writer, and you're worried your kids aren't growing up properly, and the hanky represents that. Look how much symbolic meaning is pulled from this one object. There's never hanky up my sleeve. I neglected looking. I think that hybrid adjective is really important. Looking, being, they're not neglected, but they don't look right. They don't look right. And the hanky is what makes kids look right, cleaned up. The kind whose noses strangers clean. So others take care of her kids. What awkwardness in me forbids me to keep tissues in my bag when hanky packs are 50p. Earlier she said she was embarrassed by this. And now it's so cheap, but she can't bring herself to do it. She can't bring herself to do it. Why? Because it means too much. She knows what she should be, but she isn't. I miss material handkerchiefs. They're soft and hidden history. Like the nostalgia line, this is a really revealing. She misses the past, but she misses the material of the past, the materiality of the past, but actually its presence in her life. But look, it isn't mine. I'll let it go. This is acceptance. And you see that change in the speaker in the last stanza. Structurally, you know, in a lot of these poems, it's in the end where you see a change in these speakers. My mother, too, eventually, who died not leaving handkerchiefs but tissues and uncertainty. And she would say, should I complain of the scratchy and disposable? So if I said to my mom about what I've said to you, that tissues are scratchy and they don't last and they're not soft and they have no beauty or no narrative, she would, and the mom's voice comes in at the end, this is your material, this is your life, the things that make up your life, to do with, daughter, what you will. Take responsibility for your life. Don't cry about lost handkerchiefs.